There is a joke that audiophiles have been telling each other for 50 years. It goes like this: no highs, no lows must be Bose. That is the entire joke. It works because every serious audio enthusiast in America understood the punchline immediately. Bose, the most successful consumer audio company in American history, is also the most hated brand among the people who actually care about sound. The company has been criticized, mocked, and dismissed by audiophile publications for over half a century. And during that same 50 years, Bose has outsold almost every audiophile brand on the planet, invented technologies that genuinely changed the industry, and earned its founder a place in the National Inventors Hall of Fame. This is the story of why the people who love audio cannot stand the company that built the audio industry as most Americans know it. The story begins in 1956 at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. A graduate student named Amar Bose, the son of a Bengali freedom fighter who fled British India and a French-German schoolteacher mother, had just completed his doctorate in electrical engineering. To reward himself, he bought what was supposed to be a high-end stereo system. He took it home, set it up, played his favorite recordings, and was immediately disappointed. The system was technically impressive. The frequency response was flat, the distortion was low, the specifications were excellent, but it did not sound like the live concerts Bose had attended at Boston Symphony Hall. He started investigating why. Over the next 8 years, while working as an MIT professor, Bose conducted what was probably the most rigorous research into psychoacoustics ever performed by a single individual. He recorded live concerts at Symphony Hall. He measured the way sound moved through the space. He discovered something the audio industry had ignored for decades. In a concert hall, the listener does not hear sound directly from the instruments. The listener hears the sound after it has bounced off the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and every other surface in the room. The direct sound is a minority of what the ear actually perceives. Most of what you hear at a concert is reflected sound. Bose calculated the ratio. Approximately 11% of the sound reached the listener directly from the orchestra. The other 89% was reflection. In 1964, Bose founded a company to commercialize what he had learned. The first product, the Model 2201, was a corner-mounted speaker shaped like a slice of a sphere, with 22 small drivers spread across its curved face. It was a commercial failure. It was too strange and too expensive. But the principle Bose was working from was sound. In 1968, he released a redesigned version of the same idea. The new speaker was a pentagonal cabinet that contained 9 identical 4-inch full-range drivers. 8 of them faced backward, angled toward the wall behind the speaker. Only 1 driver faced forward. The design was the 901. It was paired with a required external equalizer that compensated for the unusual driver arrangement and tuned the speaker for the room it was in. Without the equalizer, the 901 sounded thin and MIDI. With the equalizer properly adjusted, the speaker did something no other consumer speaker on the market could do. It made a normal living room sound like a small concert hall. Julian Hirsch, the most influential audio reviewer in America at the time, wrote a review for Hi-Fi Stereo Review in September 1968 that was as close to a rave as he ever gave a product. The reaction was immediate, and sales exploded. The Bose 901 became one of the most commercially successful loudspeakers ever produced. It stayed in production for nearly 50 years, and almost immediately the audiophile establishment turned on it. The first attack came from Stereophile magazine. J. Gordon Holt, the founding editor, wrote that the 901 produced a more realistic semblance of natural ambience than any other speaker on the market. Then he added that in every other respect, the speaker was unexceptional. He noted that the 901 lacked precise stereo imaging. Individual instruments could not be pinpointed in space the way they could with a conventional speaker. Audiophiles cared deeply about this. Bose did not. According to Amar Bose's research, real concert halls did not have pinpoint imaging either. You do not hear the second violinist sitting precisely 3 feet to the right of the principal violinist. You hear the entire string section as a unified sound field. The 901 was designed to reproduce that experience, not the artificial pinpoint imaging that conventional speakers produced. The next attack came from Harry Pearson Jr., a young audio writer who bought a pair of 901s based on the positive mainstream reviews. He was so disappointed with what he heard that he founded a new magazine called The Absolute Sound, specifically to provide an alternative voice to publications like Hi-Fi Stereo Review. The Absolute Sound became the most influential audiophile publication of the next 40 years. Its founding mission, in part, was to push back against Bose. In 1970, Consumer Reports published a critical review of the 901. The article described instruments through the Bose system as appearing to grow to gigantic proportions and wander about the room. A violin sounded 10 feet wide. A piano stretched from wall to wall. Bose Corporation filed a lawsuit for product disparagement in 1971. The case took over a decade to resolve. In 1981, a federal court ruled in Bose's favor and ordered Consumers Union to pay $115,000 in damages. Then the First Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the decision. Then the Supreme Court of the United States agreed to hear the case. In April 1984, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of Consumer Reports, setting a First Amendment precedent that protected product reviewers under the same actual malice standard as political journalism. Bose lost, but the company had been willing to spend 13 years and a fortune in legal fees fighting a magazine over a bad review of a stereo speaker. The audiophile criticism never stopped. As Bose released new products through the 1980s and the 1990s, every one of them generated the same response. The Acoustimass system, released in 1987, used tiny satellite speakers paired with a hidden subwoofer. Audiophiles complained that the satellites had no high-end response above 12 kilohertz, that the subwoofer was localizable, and that the crossover left a gap in the mid-range. They were correct about the measurements. They were also irrelevant. Acoustimass became one of the best-selling speaker systems of the next 2 decades. The Wave Radio, released in 1984 as the Acoustic Wave Music System and re-released in 1993 as a smaller model, was a tabletop unit that used patented acoustic waveguide technology to produce surprising bass from a small box. Audiophiles dismissed it as overpriced. Customers bought it by the millions. Bose became famous for selling its products through infomercials, direct mail, and major print campaigns, rather than through traditional audio dealers, which the audiophile community considered an additional insult. Then there were the inventions audiophiles could not dismiss. In 1978, on a flight from Zurich to Boston, Amar Bose was given a pair of cheap airline headphones and could not hear the music over the engine noise. On that flight, he sketched a design for what would become the first commercial noise-canceling headphones. He spent the next decade developing the technology. In 1986, prototype Bose noise-canceling headphones were used by pilots Dick Rutan and Gianna Yeager during their 9-day non-stop flight around the world in the Voyager aircraft. In 1989, Bose released the first commercial noise-canceling aviation headset. In 2000, Bose released the Quiet Comfort, the first consumer noise-canceling headphone, and changed air travel for tens of millions of passengers. Every premium noise-canceling headphone on the market today, including every product Sony, Apple, and Sennheiser sell, traces its lineage to that flight in 1978. Amar Bose died in 2013 at the age of 83. 2 years before his death, he donated the majority of his shares in Bose Corporation to MIT, making the university the company's largest shareholder, though with no voting rights. The company remains privately held. It still does not publish detailed specifications for most of its consumer products, a practice that infuriates audiophile reviewers to this day. And the 901, the speaker that started all of it, was finally discontinued in 2016 after a 48-year production run. A Series 6 901 sold new, equalizer included, for $1,400. Here is what the audiophile community got right. The Bose 901 did not have a flat frequency response. It did not have pinpoint stereo imaging. Its specifications were unconventional, and many of its products required active electronic correction to sound acceptable. By every measurable standard that the audio industry had developed since the 1950s, the 901 was inferior to comparably priced conventional speakers. The criticism was technically accurate. Here is what the audiophile community got wrong. They assumed that the measurements were the music. Amar Bose had spent 8 years proving that they were not. Sound, as experienced by a human being in a real room, is not a frequency response chart. It is a psychoacoustic event shaped by reflection, dispersion, and the brain's interpretation of countless overlapping signals. Bose was, in his own words, a subjectivist. He believed the human experience was the best measure of performance, not the instrumentation. The audiophile community, which had built its entire identity around the worship of measurement, could not accept this, so they mocked the company that outsold them all. And the man who founded that company, the son of a freedom fighter and a school teacher, kept his MIT professorship for 45 years, gave most of his fortune to the school where he taught, and built a product that made 48 years of music sound bigger than the room it was playing in. Both sides were right about something. Only one side was selling.